Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Movies I Seen This Month, a partner company to hashtag Rename Reviews, where I will be reviewing movies that I had seen in the current month. Mostly I'm doing this to catch up on my gigantic list of movies I need to see, as well as stay up to date on current films and give a little more thought into the movies I watch versus just watching them saying, wow, that was super cool, and then immediately losing them into the ether of my brain. So I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this, but we'll see. It'll be a journey we take together. And by together, I mean I'll watch movies, and you may listen to my voice talk about them if you so wish. Anyway, awkward intro aside, the first movie I'm going to be talking about is a movie I just got done seeing called Midsommar, the A24 smash summer hit. Written and directed by Ari Aster, who I am not familiar with, though apparently he also wrote and directed, I believe, Hereditary as well, which is also on my list of movies to see. Make it to that at one point. Cast is comprised of people I mostly have never heard of. Main actress girl Danny in the movie was very good. I thought everybody was actually pretty good in this movie, surprisingly so. Whenever I go in to see a movie and the cast is made up of people I haven't seen before, I have the tendency to think that they're not going to be super great, which luckily was not the case here. And ironically enough, I guess you could say that the only character I did recognize, Maze Runner Boy, he was probably my least favorite, but he was also the one that was given the least personality, in my opinion. He was basically just douchebag man, which brings me to my first notable point of the film, and that aside from Danny, pretty much all of the main characters are different shades and flavors of douchebag or asshole, which is an interesting take for a movie like this, where the main characters are essentially trapped in a location. I mean, you could swap out the commune for a haunted house, and you would have 50 other films, but the characters themselves aren't the typical tropes. Like, you don't have jock dude and nerd dude and relationship couple in the house, or the commune in this scenario. Those character traits are there to a certain extent, but for the most part, they seem like pretty realistic characters, given their backgrounds and the situation they're in and how they react to it. But it seems like the core trait that all the characters unfortunately share is that they're selfish, and not really willing to cooperate with each other at any point, which ends up being the ultimate sort of negative, or I guess bad guy force in this movie, I would say at least. There are the main characters' inability to reason and understand each other and work together. Everyone's got their own thing they're trying to accomplish, and they're pretty much set to do that. They don't really have any desire to come together or work together to get out of a clearly suspect situation. They each have goals they're just trying to reach on their own, and sort of foregoing their only lifelines really they have in this crazy mixed up world they find themselves in. So that makes an interesting sort of dynamic, on top of the horror that the movie actually brings along itself, is the characters' inability to even begin to help each other out. So in that sense, it becomes, in a pretty large part, a character piece as well as a horror movie. That's probably why I liked it so much. Generally, I tend to like films that are more character-driven. Even if the story of a movie is okay or passable, as long as the characters are well written and relatable, typically I will find myself enjoying that movie more. So, moving on, characters are great, even though in the movie they're assholes, aside from Danny, who is just at 4 characters' wrath this entire movie. for the most part. Um, as for the plot of the movie, it is seemingly about four people's unique individual descent into madness, mostly brought on by the aforementioned characters not willing to be there for each other in the madhouse scenario they find themselves in. So I'm not going to do a scene for scene breakdown of the movie, of course, but there are a few I want to touch on. In particular, I would say actually the opening scene is really well done. Up until they get to the actual commune, all of that is really well done, including a scene at the very beginning, before the title crawl, that is like actually very haunting and chilling. The way it was executed, the lead up to it, is very artfully done, I would say. You don't really suspect what's coming to come, and when it does happen, and you see the events that unfold, it sort of knocks the wind out of you, the way it's shot, especially given what was shot before that scene. It all just adds up into a very sort of, I'm hesitant to say beautiful, but it was beautifully shot, even given the subject matter. I would say that's a common theme, actually, for me at least. The movie is like incredibly beautiful from start to finish, even given the subject matter for a lot of the shots and cinematography. Like, even looking at certain things that should make you uneasy or be grotesque, it's shot in a way that's like, I don't know, it's like hauntingly beautiful. It sticks with you. In a very good way. And maybe that has something to do with most of the shots being in daytime. I know they're really riding on that, but yeah, it leaves an impression on you. So after the opening scene, we get our recommended dose of character building scenes. They're very well done. They're short and to the point, and it's not like a full-blown drama at the beginning. It's mostly, they give you enough to understand the characters and where they're coming from without like making sure you know their full backstory and why they're doing what they're doing. You get their, in the moment, currently where they're at in their life, motivations, and that's enough to understand each of the characters well enough so that their characters don't feel just like actors playing roles. They actually feel like realistic, understandable characters throughout the length of the movie. Two scenes leading up to the beginning of the commune arc, is what I will impromptu call it, are really well done, and they are really well done because they're in this movie. And I will make sense of that statement right now. The first one isn't really much of a spoiler. It's just a transitional scene, but a scene like this gets my cynical brain pumping, because it is a very artsy scene transition. It's actually shown in the trailer. It's when girlfriend character and commune character are on the couch. He says something that upsets her, and she says she has to go, so she runs up and gets into the bathroom to hyperventilate and cry about her sordid past. And she opens the door to go into the bathroom. The camera flips around and pans up, and she is in the bathroom of an airplane. And that gets us from point A to point B in about as exciting of a manner as you can, given the scenario and circumstance. But I can just imagine people seeing that and being like, oh, what the heck? She just walked into the bathroom, now she's in an airplane bathroom? What about all the stuff in between? But you don't really need that. At that point, we understand the characters enough. We don't need scenes of them further bickering and discussing at an airport. We don't need college thesis guy to have his iPad open anymore, talking about how excited he is to view the Midsommar traditions, and we don't need Maze Runner guy talking about how much drugs he's gonna do, and we don't need boyfriend guy staring off into the distance, contemplating his wasted years dating main character girl. We have enough characterization at this point to know where everybody's coming from. So I appreciated that scene. Well done. It made me smile when I saw it. Made me want to go paint a painting of an airport bathroom. And the scene almost directly after that is the car trip to the waypoint, to the commune. And this scene in particular, I think, in a lot of other movies, would have had me rolling my eyes. Because what happens, and this scene is also in the trailer, or half of it at least. They are in a car and they're driving to like the entry point to the commune. They're staying after summer. They're driving down the road, they're talking, and then they're like, "Oh, how much longer?" And the guy says 4 hours. And then Maze Runner guy's like, "Oh, geez, give me a break." So camera pans out, slow pan out. Camera slowly like rotates 180 over the top of the car. So now the car is upside down, driving on an upside down road. Everything else is normal. The music doesn't get all swelly and hypnotic and weird or anything. It's still very run of the mill. And to me, very clearly, a camera shot like that is supposed to represent our characters' entry point into their upside down, crazy world they're going to. They're leaving the world they know, and their lives are about to get flipped upside down by going to this crazy hellscape commune world. And stuff like that is sort of surface level and super obvious, but it comes late enough into the movie that you're invested at that point. So I'm willing to take handfuls of the chocolate-covered popcorn Ari has given us as a director and chomp it down and go on the journey he has laid forth for us. So at that point, they are at the gateway to hell, aka the commune, where they have one last little brief respite of humanity before they enter, and they spend it by doing some unmentioned drug. I'm sure some keen-eyed drug enthusiasts will be able to pick out what it is, but that's not me. Anyway, this is like the third or fourth drug scene in this movie at this point, by the way. It does come up a lot in the movie. Drug use is definitely a theme in this movie, but it's not used as like a scapegoat for all the events that happen. It's not like the movie doesn't end pretty much with the characters stoned out of their mind in a car or something, and then they go and then as the viewer we go, "Oh, was it a drug trip?" It doesn't end like that. The drug use is for a purpose, is what I will say. And the scenes where they are taking the drugs are actually done really well, because I know we've all seen the movies where somebody like smokes weed or something, and then the walls are like wavy and crawling with bugs, and everyone's voice slows down, and it's like almost comical how over the top they go with it. But it's super subtle in this movie, like subtle enough to the point where you hardly notice it. But when you do notice it, it leaves you thinking like, is that actually happening? How long has this been going on? Did I miss something? It leaves you sort of mildly brain shocked, which is cool. Nice little added effect. Very well done. Kudos to you, Ari Aster? I knew that. More good scenes happen here. Like I said, I'm not going to go scene for scene. Some nice deserved spooks for this point. No jump outs, by the way. Just a little side note. No pop out scares in this movie. So don't watch this movie behind finger prisons, where you just put your fingers in front of your eyeballs so you can just watch the movie through cracks. There's no need to do that. You're safe, in a sense, with this movie. So don't be afraid. And at this point, they go to the commune. Introductions are made to the commune and the characters, and this is where further character development happens, which brings some characters almost too far into their characterization territories. This is where, at least from my standpoint, college thesis nerd guy turns into exposition man. And given his character, it makes sense. He is writing his thesis on Midsommar traditions, which is like summer solstice They just call it Midsommar for some reason. Maybe it's like actually what it is, and I just don't know because I'm an idiot. Maybe I should do a thesis on this. From his character standpoint, it makes sense that he's asking 50 questions about the events of the commune they're staying at. But just from my standpoint, as a movie viewer, there are points where it edges into, okay, I get it. This guy's asking questions, so we aren't totally lost as the viewer. Which, I mean, I guess is a weird thing to complain about because it does give you more lore into the movie, but I can do without exposition dumping characters. And Deadbeat Man, the guy who just talks about drugs and women, becomes even more of a non-caring d-hole. He does some stupid things, and he gets just rewards for being such a blatantly stupid character. And bad, neglectful boyfriend character remains a bad and neglectful boyfriend, which leads to Danny's potential biggest foe in this movie. Danny is the main girlfriend character, by the way. Yeah, her potential biggest foe in this movie, which is needing somebody to talk to and rely on and relate to and seek help from, and nobody is willing to give her time. So earlier in the movie, she suffers this tragedy, and boyfriend guy's like, darn, that sucks. I'm going to Sweden. And she's like, well, I guess I'll go too. So now she is in Sweden. She's in this crazy cult commune. She's dealing with a past tragedy. College thesis guy is like, I gotta do my thesis. I gotta do my book report. Douchebag guy is like, I gotta do drugs and I gotta try to bang women. Commune guy is like, hey, we're at my commune. I guess I'm here now. And neglectful boyfriend guy is like, I don't know what I'm doing in my life, and I am neglectful boyfriend, so I don't really have too much time to spend on your sorrows. I'm too busy not knowing what I'm doing in my life. Until he witnesses a certain scene that makes him find drive in his life. He finds the passion to do something with his life, and it's to steal college thesis guy's college thesis. So here we have Danny in 3 different flavors of hell, and nobody's there to extend an arm to lift her out. So all she can really do is sink deeper and deeper into it. Through a sort of no fault of her own. There's only so much you can do on your own as Danny's character if you've suffered as much as she has. So who is there to lend a guiding hand to Danny in her time of need when her 3 other friends are not? The evil commune, of course. They'll get you every time. They'll suck you in with their "we're family and we care about you" spiel. Don't listen to it. But Danny does listen to it. If she had listened to my advice right now, she could have avoided this scenario she was in, which I guess will lead into spoilers at this point. So, if you wanna skip spoilers, go to 2337 right now. Right, so, like I was saying, Danny did not listen to my advice, so she falls under the ruse of the commune that she has been invited to. And not actually willingly, the most of the time. She clearly knows something's wrong the entire time she's there, but like I keep mentioning, no one is really there to speak with her, to make her feel like she is correct in thinking something is wrong, to help to try to escape. Everyone is too preoccupied with their own interests. So the characters are there for I believe it's 9-day festival at this commune. Every day is a new festival, a new event, and the characters are either watching the events unfold or participating. And the first event they see is 2 people in the commune who have reached their essential maximum age, which is 72. That's very specific. Why that is the maximum age. And apparently on day 1 or day 2, I think it's day 1 of the 9-day festival, the 72-year-olds have to kill themselves. So there is this beautiful shot of a mountainside. It's in broad daylight. The mountain scene, absolutely beautiful. And everybody's clad in their white cult clothes at the foot of the mountainside. They're all standing or staring up at the top of the mountain, including our 4 main character people. They are in regular clothes pretty much the entire time. And scenes happen which ultimately culminate in the 2 olds jumping off of the mountainside, killing themselves in various fashions at the bottom of the mountain. And I say various fashions because it doesn't go as planned sometimes, and you'll just have to watch and see what that means. But essentially, our characters have watched 2 people kill themselves. And Danny goes through a really well shot, like, shell shock moment. Like, you clearly get that she is deeply disturbed by this, which she should be. But it's shot in a way that you, like, really resonate with it and feel it. And neglectful boyfriend character is there, and college thesis guy is there, and they're both like, ooh, that was rough. Oh, did you see that? And college thesis guy is like, this is perfect for my thesis. I'm going to write all about this. And neglectful boyfriend character is like, finally, I have something to do. I'm also going to write my thesis on this. And they get into a little tiff. And Danny is like, what is going on? This is insane. 2 people killed themselves. Isn't this weird? And the 2 characters like, I got to write my thesis. So, commune guy sits down with Danny, and he's like, hey, I'm sorry, but you're cute. Let me hold your hand. And she's like, I mean, this is wrong, but this is the nicest thing that's happened to me in 6 months, so sure. So they hold hands. It's really hot and steamy. And at that point, to me at least, this is when the characters are solidified. Thesis guy clearly only cares about his thesis. Neglectful boyfriend has his necessary distraction from Danny to keep him a neglectful boyfriend. Commune guy is showcased to be creepy weirdo. And druggy guy was sleeping in during this point. So there you go. And Danny is freaking out, as she should, in this scenario. And the commune is reaching out a guiding hand to make her feel better. So, boom. At that point, it's probably about near halfway, maybe a little before. We got it. All our characters and our setup is good. We're ready to go. And yeah, it's definitely before the halfway point. Because I remember thinking, wow, the horror aspects of this movie started earlier than I anticipated. Day 1 of the Commune Festival, and we already get people killing themselves. So this is where it starts going off the rails. And that's probably the only scene I will blatantly spoil because it happens early enough to where it's not going to ruin the whole movie for you hearing that, but it's enough to let you understand how far the movie's willing to go and where it's going to go from there. Between that scene and the end, it's all just very... Man, it's hard to put into words the feeling, at least I got from watching this movie. It's sort of like, not to get too floofy with my words here, but it's sort of like the movie was just lightly dancing through my mind as I was watching it, if that makes any sense. It was sort of like watching a dream that happened to be reality. Once again, if that makes sense. Like the way it was shot and how well the characters were portrayed made this scenario seem incredibly realistic, even though clearly it's not. I'm sure there's been tales of cults and communes in the past doing some wicked stuff. In fact, I know there have been, but not to this extreme, clearly. but it's so well done and well shot that it's believable. It's almost like there were certain points where I felt like I was watching a documentary, a really well shot documentary. It's that well executed that you forget you're watching a movie, and it's like you are watching real events. Like you're a bystander just watching these real events unfold, which is the best a movie can do, I guess, to get you that immersed. So full marks in that regard. Very well executed, shot, characterized, written movie. 15 out of 15. Okay, that last chunk of words aside, it was a super good movie. And I would recommend it if you are okay with horror films, not like pop out, conjuring horror or slasher flicks like Friday 13th or whatever. Not like that. Like good story based, character driven horror. I wouldn't even really call this psychological horror, even though I guess you could say there are some elements of that in this. It's sort of its own beast. It's a character horror, if that makes sense. Which it will if you see this movie. You'll understand what I'm saying if you see this movie, which is more incentive to see the movie. You get what I'm saying? Hire me, A24, to advertise. My advertisements are roughly a half an hour long of me rambling, and in the end I tell people to watch the movie again. Okay, that's enough for now. This is probably incredibly rambly, but it is my first time doing this. I'll get better as I go. And I'm talking as if I have people listening, which I probably don't at this point, but this is mostly for me. So I think about the movies I've seen and give them more thought, and more critical thinking that they deserve versus just seeing them and typing on Twitter, whoa, sick movie, hashtag bro, and then being done with it. So if you did listen to this, cool, thanks. Type my favorite flower is the petunia in your favorite chat room if you got to this ending of the review. Discussion, whatever you want to call this. Anyway, rambling over. Thank you for listening. No.